Good afternoon. I'm John Palchicchio, Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, and welcome to the Recovery Weekly Check-In, a weekly forum hosted by DMPED in order to give you the latest updates about our economic recovery and all the opportunities that we have to work together throughout the pandemic. We've been hosting these every Tuesday at 4 p.m., and this is actually our last session of the year. But we saved, I would say, the best for last. We've saved the entertainment venues and entertainment industry for an industry we want to both highlight and talk about how we have set up their portion or opened up the application of their portion of the Bridge Fund, which is a $100 million program that Mayor Bowser put forth after the council passed legislation. And so we've been working for the last few weeks to design the program and to launch it. And so I'm joined by two colleagues today, Sumangali Cook, the Director of Business Development in DMPED, and Sean Townsend, both of which are going to talk about the program specifically, and then also some of the work that we've been doing to support the industry, the hospitality industry really as a whole. So without further ado, I want to welcome to the check-in a very regular guest, Sumangali Cook, to update us about the Entertainment Bridge Fund.
All right. Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. As always, honored to be here and to share more information about how we are looking to support our local businesses. And as you mentioned, Deputy Mayor, this is our last town hall for the year, but we're saving the best for last. And it is the Entertainment Bridge Fund. This fund here is slightly different than the others because we are taking a different approach with this one. And so, as you've probably seen in a lot of the content that we've provided yesterday, that we're looking to do two parts for this particular fund. What we have rolled out today, which was actually open yesterday, is the Entertainment Bridge Fund Part 1, if you will. And its focus is primarily on those entertainment venues, the venue locations. We know that if we are looking to preserve our culture, our entertainment, arts, then we need to really focus on the venues. If we don't have those, we don't have anything else. And so we're starting with that first. The second part will be obviously those supporting businesses, nonprofits, organizations, and things of that nature. There'll be more information to come on that. But today, we're going to focus on part 1. And so I'd like to share a little bit of information about where we are with this bridge fund. This total fund is $29.5 million investment. And again, it is, we know that this particular industry has been plagued with COVID as well and experiencing a lot of economic trauma. And we know that a lot of these businesses need significant help. So I'm going to run through what the eligible requirements are and use. Eligibility is live music venues, concert halls, billiards, bowling alleys, event venues, movie theaters, museums, your theaters, your arenas, specialty experience venues like axe throwing maybe, or escape rooms and such. They're all included. So there's a very large, wide range of businesses that are eligible for this particular opportunity. Eligible uses, obviously, to take care of operational expenses over the next few months. The range of the award is $10,000 to $250,000. We're looking to award approximately, this is just an estimate, but approximately about 300 businesses or so. The application opened yesterday. It closes on January 11th, 2021 at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you take a look, you'll see a sample of those venues that I just discussed a few minutes ago: theaters, specialty experience venues, skating rinks, bowling alleys, event venues, movie theaters, museums, nightclubs, and such. They are included in this particular bucket here. Requirements. Must be operate a venue in one of the eligible business types that you just saw, physically located here in DC, must have site control, must be able to demonstrate a 50% loss of revenue, and have the basic business license and such. Businesses that are permanently closed and have taken any steps to cease business operations under DCRA, those businesses are not eligible. Also, in order to be ready, when you think about what are the things that you need to be prepared, these are some of the usual suspects that we have required in all of the other funds. Must at least have your 2019 tax returns, your 2019 monthly income statement, 2020 income statements, copy of your business license, clean hands, at least within the last 90 days or so, certificate of occupancy, any applicable ABRA licenses that apply, lease, deed, or landlord affidavit, one or the other. There's extended language in the application that and guidance for that. And then any receipts for ABRA licenses or renewals that took place in 2020. We know that some businesses have renewed their licenses and have not had an opportunity to exercise them. And so we would like to take a look, and if you have those, it's optional to supply. We would like to try to do a rebate for that as well. That is included in this particular fund. Obviously, in similar fashion to the other funds that we have rolled out recently, we do have information sessions that are coming up. We have two, one on the 28th, at 3 p.m. and then the other on the 29th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please go to the website, go to the link coronavirus.dc.gov, Bridge Fund, and click to sign up for the information sessions. One of those is being hosted by my colleague here, Director Townsend, for the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture. He's hosting one of those information sessions, and the other is available as well. So please, by all means, we'd love to have you join us for those information sessions for more details. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and pass it on to my colleague, Director Townsend.
Thank you, Simbangale, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for having me here today. Always good to be with the DMPED family, and good to see our special guest as well. Just a couple of updates from the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture. Last Friday on December 18th, Mayor Bowser announced that indoor dining would be taking a holiday pause from December 23rd at 10 p.m. To January 15th at 5 a.m. And like she said, I believe yesterday in the presser, that there is no expectation that that pause will be extended past January 15th. And I know I've seen a lot of questions about that. So just a couple of updates regarding the pause of indoor dining. Delivery, grab and go, and outdoor dining is still permitted during the pause. So with outdoor dining comes a few changes to the guidance that was previously submitted as it relates to the sides of outdoor structures, tents, canopies, etc. We've now increased the amount of sides from 1 to 2 that you are able to have and still be considered outdoor dining. And also with the change in the sides, or flaps or walls, we've also changed the guidance from not being able to operate your outdoor streetery or parklet in 32 degrees. It's now when the mayor has declared a snow emergency is the only time that you cannot use your streetery or parklet during inclement weather. Also for the pause, sidewalk cafes are restricted from being used during a snow emergency that's been declared by the mayor. Additionally, there's been a lot of questions around heating these outdoor structures and igloo-like structures outdoors. So the fire marshal's office, thankful for the partnership with them. Over the weekend, we were able to iron out some allowances regarding portable electrical space heaters. They are allowed in indoor structures, including the igloos, as long as you are using a 8 or 10 gauge extension cord. So a lot of this guidance, the updated guidance, has been included into the outdoor dining guide, and you can find the guide, as always, at coronavirus.dc.gov /recovery-business. I always get that mixed up. And just a reminder that the restaurant portion of the Bridge Fund closes on Monday, December 28th. That's just a reminder. That fund application closes at 5 p.m. this coming Monday. And just a little tidbit about some local support efforts here. ShopInTheDistrict.com is one of my sites that I've actually used to buy some of my holiday gifts. And I would encourage everyone to take a look at the site and potentially use it to buy some last-minute gifts and or support local. Another local business that I've seen a lot of, it's been gaining some traction, is DC2GO. I know that's one of our deputy mayor's favorites these days. They actually do. It's a third-party delivery, but they actually deliver more than just food. I know that there have been some Christmas trees that have been delivered and some other retail items as well that they offer. Definitely check them out. And I know that they are very supportive of supporting local as well as some of our industry workers. Additional relief efforts, just wanted to highlight the Restaurant Association and their partnership with Hook Hall. They have a workers relief fund, and also on Mondays at Hook Hall, industry workers can pick up care kits, family meals, and they also provide a number of resources to industry workers as well. So if there are questions about the services that they offer, feel free to email meals@hookhallhelps.com. That's meals@hookhallhelps.com. And you can also find more information about this program and this relief effort at ramw.org. And with that, I will introduce our first guest for this evening, Ian Callender, who I've known for a number of years now through just sort of being in the industry. Ian Callender is co-owner of SANDLOT Southeast and also Sweet Nation. When I get questions about pop-ups and trying to figure out how to activate vacant spaces or dilapidated parking lots or just trying to create an event out of nothing, Ian is probably one of the first calls that I make to get a good understanding of that sector of the industry. And so with that, I'll pass it over to Ian to talk about SANDLOT Southeast and how he's been able to pivot during this time and why the Bridge Fund is important to his business. Ian?
Thank you, Director Townsend. I appreciate that. Deputy Mayor, Director Samagale. My name is Ian Callender. I am a DC native. I like to start off with that. As Sean mentioned, I am the principal of Sweet Nation. We are a CBE event design and development firm. We've been active for about 12 years in the city, quietly. Actually, what we've created was a non-traditional business model by taking vacant, dilapidated spaces and activating them for community use. We've pretty much taken vacant office buildings, old churches, vacant parking lots, and really reimagining it for the benefit of the neighborhoods that we basically go into that didn't have any type of cultural arts use in the previous, and we actually have two that are still active, one being on Delaware Avenue and the other on Nicholson, east of the river. Next slide, please. So with our SANDLOT Southwest project, we started in Buzzard Point, and there was no activity in Buzzard Point in 2019, so we practically took a vacant lot and we repurposed it into a outdoor cultural arts venue. What I mean by that is the ability to bring in food trucks, other vendors, caterers, really a sector of industry that doesn't really have the ability to activate in the brick and mortar scene. But we go through all of the process, DCRA, ABRA, the necessary steps to make this an active and valid location, fully licensed, where we can completely activate without any issues thereafter. The second image there is actually from an event that we had where we hosted over 1,200 people over an 8-hour time span. And over the course of a year, we've welcomed 35,000 people to Buzzard Point ahead of any residential development in that area. And recently, post-COVID, that site is now being demolished for a new apartment building from MRP. But that actually goes to my point of creating new business relationships with the developers like MRP, where we can work in tandem and relocate our shipping container, which is now in Southeast, and really look to, again, the non-traditional forms of business. So we modified our business to incorporate new event experiences, especially in the COVID era. And then we created these newer business models with other businesses such as Turning Natural and Jackie Restaurant. And we focus more on quality versus quantity. I know there's a lot of establishments that look to have as many, tables as the space allocates for, but we want to really manage expectations and again focus on the neighborhoods so that we're not causing any disruption. And then we launched exclusive residential programs with building management entities like Kettler that manage the properties at Marin and Dock 79, for example, and really work at different introductions of industry where residential people in those apartment buildings can have some unique experiences without leaving their homes. And then finally, we just continue to build non-traditional community spaces with our strategic partners in the corporate sector. That's basically how we subsidize the carry costs of building these spaces from scratch with no loans and no investors. Next slide. And these are just a set of images that shows what SANDLOT Southeast is. We are located to the south of National Park Stadium, directly adjacent to the Marin building. We were relocated there in about September of 2020. And we are the first cold pressed juice cocktail bar in this region. So you can definitely come out to SANDLOT Southeast and get a healthy cocktail and enjoy some sun. And you can actually bring your dog as well. So we are true to form with our SANDLOT name, which stemmed from the 25th anniversary of the SANDLOT movie in 2018. So hopefully you'll come on down and join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian, and I will definitely attest to the cold press drinks. They are definitely different drinks, healthier, and I do have a favorite. It's the black. I believe it's the black drink, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the cognac drink, but it's really good. So I encourage you all to take a chance and try out some of those drinks. But I think have you paused for winter?
Yeah, we have. So we paused. Last week was our last week.
Okay.
We are shifting more to spring of next year. And again, really just focusing on those newer models. So while the business at the location is paused, we're still continuing to do programming in the apartment buildings.
Got it. All right. Thanks, Ian, for that.
Thank you.
And next up on our list, we have Donna Westmoreland. And Donna is the Chief Operating Officer of IMP. And that includes venues like the Anthem, 930 Club, and the Lincoln Theater. And Donna, why don't you take some time to let us know about IMP and how you all have been, how you've been doing throughout the pandemic and why the Bridge Fund is important to your organization.
Thank you, Sean, and Director Cook, and thank you, Deputy Mayor, for having me here. IMP and 930 Club was the first IMP venue. It opened it opened in 1980 at 930 F Street, and we took it over in 1985. I started there in 1990, and in 1996 we opened the new 930 Club at its now home at the corner of 9th and V. In 2010, we met with Monty Hoffman, who was building and conceiving of the wharf, and we started working then to design what is now the Anthem. In 2013, we responded to an RFP put out by the district, DGS and Arts and Humanity, I think, and we were awarded the contract to operate the Lincoln Theater on U Street. And so we've been doing that since 2013. In 2017, the Anthem finally opened, and we had the venue of a lifetime that we'd all been dreaming about, and got to run it for 2.5 years. On March 11th, I was actually down at the wharf at a Biz Now breakfast meeting, and it would all of a sudden everyone was going, oh, we're not supposed to shake hands, and they're doing elbow bumps for the first time and trying to figure out what this new world was going to be like. And I left there and I listened to some news on the way there, and I was struck by the feeling that we were going to have to start doing something responsible about all of this. And I believe it was that afternoon, just as I was meeting with our staff saying, what are we going to do here, that the mayor made the recommendation that venues of 500 and more cease operations for a brief time. And we actually took that opportunity to close all of our venues. At that time, we were operating some smaller than that. U Street Music Hall, we had shows there, and it is no longer, unfortunately. But on the 12th of March, we ceased business, and we are still not operating at any of our venues. We believe that it's our civic duty to do that, and we understand that being the first to close, we will also likely be the last to open. And we truly believe that this is something that's important for the health and the welfare of people and of the nation. But we also think that there is a role to be played by government in supporting us in doing that, so that we can actually be there when it is time to be the last to open. We figured out that with social distancing, the 930 Club would hold 90 people. The Lincoln Theater would hold 111, I think. And the Anthem would hold about 700, which in a 60,000 square foot place isn't a very welcoming atmosphere. Pivoting is not an option for social gathering businesses. They're built for that. They're designed for that. They're designed with wide open spaces and lots of bathrooms. And they're really the streaming situation is. I've seen new articles about how people are less and less into it, and I believe firmly that when this is all over, people are never going to want to watch a concert on their computer screen ever again. But we'll see. But in Washington, D.C., there are some artists that are able to and willing to be screened, but it's not like we're in L.A. where you could put somebody at the Troubadour and every other venue in L.A. every night. They're not so many here, and once you pay the artist and pay to actually put it on, it's not a money-making endeavor. So we have done everything that we can. We started a family fund for our staff. We're 97% furloughed. There are 15 of us who are working at all of our venues on half salary. And we had the fortune of having successful 2 years at the Anthem, which gave us some reserves to carry us through this. But those reserves are pretty much burnt through. We were in a little bit of a Goldilocks situation with PPP, so we did not qualify for that. And we're coming, like so many venues that we know of, to the end of our rope. Where those things are concerned. And if we are to be here on the other side of that, we need help. So we are encouraged by the prospect of this bridge program, and we're encouraged by what seems to be happening on Capitol Hill. The devil in the details, but we'll see. we're here to help and answer questions so that we can help the process in any way that we can. But we do thank you for this, and we thank the mayor for this and the council, because we think that it's essential for us and everyone here.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Donna. Moving right along, we're going to jump to Rebecca Medrano. I hope I'm saying that right.
Perfect, perfect Spanish.
I will attribute that to me going to school in New Mexico, and I had to force myself to pronunciate last names like yours. But Rebecca is the CEO and founder of the Gala Theater here in Washington, D.C. Rebecca, thank you for being with us today. Please let us know about the Gala Theater and how you've been managing throughout the pandemic, and why theaters, are desperately relying on grant funding as well, from not just the local level but the federal level.
Thank you, Sean, so much. And yes, my name is not Medrano, as many people have been known to call me. It's Medrano, and I'm actually the co-founder, along with Hugo Medrano, and the executive director of Gala Hispanic Theater, which is not Gala as in a party, but Grupo de Artistas Latinoamericanos, a group of Latin American artists founded in 1976 with the first big wave of Latino immigration. A lot of artists and professionals were fleeing repressive regimes in South America, and they ended up in D.C. really looking for freedom of expression. We had a very small townhouse that we were able, back then when Adams Morgan, this was pre-gentrification, we were able to purchase with a group of people. We tore down the walls and made it into a little performing area. And it was really the heyday and golden days of, I think, of the programming we were able to do in those days. Eventually, we moved downtown next to the convention center. We moved back up to Columbia Heights and Mount Pleasant. We were in the Sacred Heart Church for a while. And then finally, we got the opportunity to build a permanent state-of-the-arts facility in the old historic Tivoli at 14th and Park. And as you all know, that was really a landmark for many, many years for the African-American community, as well as the Latino community. That whole Columbia Heights had been bombed out and sort of underdeveloped for years following the riots. And when we began working on this project, there were no restaurants, virtually one restaurant, one Salvadoran restaurant. Now there are hundreds. No development, no stores. Now we have the Target, we have a lot of things going on, and I think it was very exciting to participate in the revitalization, the economic revitalization and cultural revitalization of Columbia Heights, and we're still doing that. We provide for 45 years a very wide variety of performing arts and arts education programs. We have a main stage program with musicals in both Spanish and English that goes from September to June. We have presenting, where we bring groups from throughout the United States as well as here in DC and present them in collaboration with a lot of other arts organizations. We have great partnerships. We have Galita, a children's program for kids in pre-K through 5th grade, and that's bilingual shows. Pre-COVID, we were touring east of the river to underserved schools with those shows. They're interactive and really engage the students. And finally, our Paso Nuevo, an award-winning after-school program that's totally free, that's actually year-round, winter and summer. This is directed at underserved, low-income immigrant Latinx youth, as well as Black youth in the neighborhood. We have been bringing them to the theater now 20 years. When we had to pivot and go virtual, it was not as successful as we had hoped with these youth, because many of them are living in very crowded homes with, their abuelos, their grandparents, their siblings, and many don't have access to internet. So the virtual work we did became very stressful for them, and they expressed the desire to come back. Over the summer, we were able to safely bring back very small groups, 1 or 2 students with 2 teachers to mentor them. We helped them finish school and really, help them keep up their spirits, because for a lot of them, this was just really, really devastating. Their parents work the gig economy and aren't there to supervise them, so it's been very isolating for them. We're still continuing with that program, and I just did a podcast on climate change, and the podcast is on Apple. I don't know anything about podcast. Apple something, Apple whatever, Google and Apple, and you can upload it. And so that's very exciting. But the whole problem of pivoting, we opened, the last live show we did, we opened and closed the same day, and it was, again, a children's show. And the problem with pivoting to totally virtually for performing arts is first you have to produce the show anyway, so the expenses are the same. You need a designer, you need lighting. The artists have to rehearse. We thought we were going to be able to go through December, so we had the flamenco dancers ready to go, and we ended up paying full contracts and then had to pay the streaming. And then the artists weren't happy with what the product looked like because they're very, very picky, especially flamenco artists. So we had to redo that. So it's a tremendous expense, and you're never going to make up, ticket sales. That was our moneymaker. However, we had a very unique opportunity thanks to the mayor's pilot program. At the end of October, for 4 weeks, we were able to safely have 25 people in the venue. We had spent all summer really renovating the theater thanks to a grant actually from DMPED, a capital grant. We were able to put in a super duper HVAC system with MERV 14 filters that turns the air over 8 times an hour. We kept people safe. We did COVID tracking. Nobody got ill. The artists performed behind plexiglass. It was quite an ordeal, but it was so uplifting. The response we got from the public was amazing. Everybody felt that this was just an opportunity they were waiting for, to see something live, especially the Latino community. A lot of these people are language isolated. They don't have another place to celebrate their culture or to hear their own stories being told. We're the only theater doing that in this community that has been so hard hit by COVID. So for us, we really need the opportunity to be able to continue to pay our staff. And we had the PP loan, that's gone now. Some of the other city money has run out. So it's going to be really tough, pickings for going forward. So this is a great opportunity, the bridge program, and hopefully we'll be able to qualify to keep going and keep engaging our audiences however we can, and keep people safe. We hope that maybe with the vaccine in the spring, we're looking to try to start live again in April with very small controlled audiences, if that's at all possible. In the meantime, we will be doing some children's storytelling virtually, some of the podcast and other programs virtually, but it doesn't replace by any means the experience that our community needs, the engagement and the connection they have with us, and that the artists need, because this is their livelihood. They have no other work right now, and many of them depend on this for their livelihood. So hopefully, with this great help from the city, we will be able to make it through and not disappear. That's the other thing with small nonprofits. If you just go hide your head and you don't do anything, or you're not visible out there on the internet or virtually, because you have to really market that well, which we're not equipped to with our capacity, then you disappear and people forget about you. So it's we have to keep trucking, and we need your help, and we thank the mayor and the programs that are in place now for that opportunity. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, and thanks to our special guests. We have a couple more special guests who are going to present as well. And for those of you who are listening in on the phone line, if you want to ask a question or have a comment or some feedback to share with us, you can do that by pressing 0 and do that now, and that'll get you in the queue. We'll open up the conversation when we hear from our last 2 special guests. Also, if you're watching on the stream on Facebook, or you're watching us and you're on Twitter, use the hashtag DCHope, and that'll help us pick up your question or comment and allow us to bring you into the conversation as well. So without further ado, I want to bring in our final 2 special guests. And the next one is, I'm going to ask him, he's generally known to be shy, so I'm going to ask him to come out of his shell a little bit, and that is one of the originals in the nightlife industry. I say that because we have a relationship that we could tease each other, but I also use him as a sounding board when we have ideas to really get a sense of what the community would respond and if it might work. So without further ado, Mark Barnes, the owner of Park at 14th, will tell us a little bit about how they've been making pivots throughout the pandemic.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Sean and Commissioner Cook. I really appreciate being here today. They've given me 3 to 5 minutes. I'm sure John would like me to bring it down to 2. And I am here to talk about where we are. I I was one of the first to see where we were going. I've got a brother-in-law who's in China, and he was explaining to me the situation. So 6 weeks before, we knew we were going to shut down. The week before, we knew we were going to shut down, and we knew then. And at that time, the last day we were open, when my staff was sitting there crying amongst each other, wondering what was going to happen. It was a very emotional and sad situation. The sad part about all of this is that it has really come true, and we don't know where the end lies. We are sitting here hoping that the vaccine is, going to be the savior. I told everybody it was going to be a while. Nobody believed me. All my friends, they said, "Oh my God, are you crazy? This is gonna." I don't see us past this getting better past before this time next year. And I don't mean to frighten anyone, but we're in real trouble now as businesses, in real trouble. I've done everything from build boxes to try to come up with every gimmick to make it work. I really, really want to thank the mayor, because I think she has tried, and the council. I think they've tried everything. This isn't anyone's fault. What we are really, I guess you can say, I implore you to please make this happen now, not 2 weeks from now. We won't be here February. We won't be, there are a lot of people that will close in 2 weeks. A young lady of mine that's working for me went to get a dress today from a store, and they said, "You can't return anything, we're closing tomorrow. It's our last day." I think that's going to happen to a lot of stores. They're at the end of the rope. This $110 million was told to us in September, I think the end of August or September. There was supposed to be another PPP in July. We've all been hanging on a thread every week. No, something's going to happen. I can't even believe that Congress and people would go on vacation when there are people in the types of food lines that they're in. But I don't think that you realize that we don't have another 2 weeks. We put people out of their jobs right before Christmas. Now we need a paper that sign here, here's your money. If the city has it, they've got to get it to the people now. They don't have until January. These restaurants don't have another month. Can you imagine no, next month they say they're going to give us something. Your landlord, this person, that person. Can you imagine if we told tax and revenue that we were going to, oh no, we've got a plan for you in September. No, just wait next month. No, don't close me down. I'm going to, what would the district do if I strung them along every single month? You'd be like, are you crazy? So something that we were promised in September or the end of August is now December, and you're saying that you're going to review this in January, and for the Nightlife Association in February. You're going to review it. There's no check date. That takes us up till March, April. We won't be there. And if you really want to save this city, we're just begging you. We need it now. The one thing that the federal government did with that first PPP, it came beyond anybody's expectations.
Fast.
It was fast. It was really
fast.
good. And it was what made us believe in this country.
It was fast.
We were believing. But then July, August, and now look at where we are. It's just like, no, we're going to hold this carrot in front of you. Just hold on one more month. We don't have it. And I'm trying to tell the D.C. Council and everyone else, we don't have any more time. These landlords don't have any more time. Me and my landlord aren't fighting. We're trying to figure out, he's like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. And this is what you got to remember is that I have $4 million invested in my building. Anybody would walk in there tomorrow, some new guy that's ready to take over my lease and say, oh, I'll pay $70,000, $80,000 tomorrow for this, because he doesn't have to redo my building. I've got $4 million in there. So what, am I going to just walk away from $4 million? We haven't even heard of an extension of when this is going to, whether there's going to be an extension on the relief of no moving these, the landlords can't put us out. Is that going to happen next week? Because after next week it ends, I believe. We need that. We need security. We need your help. We need everything. I'm going to tell you, the mayor has done a wonderful job, I think. The council, I think they were behind us. I think their hands were tied. I know they were short at $770 million. So you all are kind of in the same boat. But if you found that 110, we need it allocated. We don't need this. No, we're going to give it to you. We're going to give it to you. We don't have another month. I've really got to tell you, John, I've gotten 20 texts up here. Please, Mark, tell them, like, a lot of these places just don't have it. So thank you. Thank you for letting me talk. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that the city has done. You know, when you guys gave us $6,000, I was like, what's $6,000? You don't know, that $6,000 helped me make my payroll that week.
Yep.
So that's how desperate we are as owners and operators right now. And landlords, they're in the same place. So there's not a fight between us and the landlords. We want to help them. We want them to get theirs. And we understand, all we're asking is this, we don't have till January 11th or the 15th. If we get our pay, and especially those of us who have clean hands, who have all the stuff, even those of us who don't really, but those of us who have done everything, that have paid our taxes on time, just so that we could stay in this position, so when it was ready to give it to people, that we were right there. So I'm just begging for, please, 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 we don't have another month.
No. Well, and Mark, thank you for sharing that. And Mark, before we started, you were teasing me and you said, hey, can I be candid here? Can I be honest? And
he did.
And it's important that you are, because I think for all of us, I've heard all sorts of things too, some feedback about the Bridge Fund and, you know, what are the stipulations that folks are going to, the operators, the recipients of the grants are going to have to really adhere to, and what are they going to give to the city? But really, what you've given to the city is the years and years that you all have provided jobs to our residents, vibrancy to our city, and really, it's what has made the city a place that people want to live, want to raise their family, because it has such vibrancy. And so I know that we have to do our job to get you the resource that you need, but it's important that you all are as frank as you have been about what you're facing, because it's critical at this time that folks know that relief is a way for us to give a small portion of what you would have made if it hadn't been for the pandemic. It's a small portion. It's not even. It's not even. And that's something when we get into the conversation, I want to bring Jenny into the conversation. But when we get into sort of the Q&A portion of this and get feedback from folks, just kind of give a sense of that, because I think for many people, they think of this as grants as almost like a giveaway. But it's a grant because it's relief, because you all have been so good about adhering to, in many cases, just a straight up closure of the business and a furlough of employees, many of whom have worked with you for years. But with that, I want to bring in Jenny Billfield from Washington Performing Arts. Talk to us a little bit about how you all have been weathering this and kind of how you're navigating it. So with that, Jenny?
Yeah, sure. No, thank you. I really wish that I could be there in person. I'm so sorry, but I am very grateful for the chance to speak about this and to join in the discussion. And it's been a very emotional discussion because there is so much pain that our field is experiencing. And I think especially the first few weeks of the pandemic, when basically the majority of creative artists around the world lost their work for the foreseeable future. And if you think about an entire field devastated globally. People who tend to be more in a freelance business and without insurance, and it was this weight that we felt in supporting the artists really did sharpen our lens. You know, Washington Performing Arts was founded in the 1960s, and our founder Patrick Hayes coined the phrase "everybody in, nobody out." So that has really anchored our mission all these years. We're a real engine for creativity and inclusivity. Our programs span many different types of performances, but we are actually different from some of the others who are on the panel today because we actually don't operate our own venue. We use venues all around the city, we've been at Gala, we've been at the Anthem, at the Kennedy Center, Strathmore, 6th and I, Lincoln, and through our Mars Arts DC program in 60, 70 different places, indoors and outdoors. So our ability to be in many neighborhoods and to feel that sense of connection to our community is vital, both artistically and in terms of our patron base. We are a live gathering business, and this, for many arts organizations, we struggle to just simply maintain our websites in any given year. So the thought of doing all virtual was not intuitive. However, much as Mark was outlining, we decided from the very beginning that we would not engage in magical thinking. We would not sort of schedule things and go through this revolving door of initiating and returning funds and all of this. We just didn't have the staff to do it. So literally March 11th, as Donna was mentioning, we were 3 days away from the 600-person gala at the National Building Museum, honoring Sheila Johnson, and with all sorts of fabulous guests, and our gospel choir was queued up, the food had been purchased, and it was about 20% of our fundraising for the year. And within 72 hours, we pivoted essentially to live TV, moving a small cohort of audience out to the Salamander Resort and doing a telethon, raising money, converting gifts over, silent auction, live auction. That really fortified our confidence in being more aggressive about pivoting our programs to virtual. We canceled all of our live performances for the spring. We refunded money. We converted tickets over to gifts as people were willing to do it. And we turned also to, when we paid honoraria to all of our artists, we canceled. So we set that up right away. And we began working with artists and managers looking at a forthcoming season that was purely virtual. We didn't want to put any money against possible ticket revenue. As a mission-driven organization, we rely upon philanthropy and grants to do our many of our programs, including our partnership with DC Public Schools. We're actually in 85 public schools this year, different program partnerships between our Capital Arts program and Embassy Adoption program. So it was really vital that we continue these programs to continue to engage and employ teaching artists. And as Rebecca was saying, with the young people just in these very isolated environments, separated, the social and emotional development of students was really first and foremost for us. Our revenue took a big hit. Our expenses were reduced. But we started the season with a $7.3 million budget, and we reduced that to $5.6 million. We didn't have to furlough or lay off people. We actually had a number of vacancies. We simply did not rehire. And we were very aggressive in fundraising and in expense cutting at every turn. And for this year, what would have been probably a $7.5 million budget, we're actually working with $4.6 million budget. Again, with no live ticket revenue. We have, if you go to the second slide, you'll see two programs. One on the left is Home Delivery Plus, which is our virtual packages online. We created a huge amount of free online programming over the summer, launching 7 new series for families and focusing on local artists. As we headed into this year, we wanted to create a residency-style experience for our patrons, which we launched with the String Queens, actually, 2 weeks ago. They were our Mars artists in residence. And so we wanted to offer our audiences the opportunity to experience artists in a unique way. And frankly, artists had many more things that they wanted to say with their programs, having weathered this pandemic and still trying to gain their sense of gravity. So this is a digital subscription in a season when we would have probably had 40 to 50 performances and generated $2 million of ticket revenue. We're now looking at $100,000 of ticket revenue and 12 packages, which are very well developed, excellent audio and video. We brought Eric Richardson in, a veteran producer in DC, to work with us, as he has in the past, to develop these packages. And we're really trying to focus on the unique qualities of our city, our nation's capital, in our programming. So if you look to the right, you'll see a profile, some photos of Dance in DC, which was curated and led by our Chief Operating Officer, Director of Finance, and hip-hop dancer, choreographer, and entrepreneur, C. Lorenzo Evans III. We wanted to focus on the vitality of artists in our region and the vitality of small businesses and businesses that anchor neighborhoods, because to uncouple the two would be to ignore the tremendous economic impact that the arts have as drivers of restaurants and businesses and retailers. We wanted to nestle the two. So in thinking of the great artists we have in this region who are teachers, who are mentors, creative artists, recreative artists, we had individual and duo trio artists working in businesses. So you'll see Crazy Legs at Ben's Chili Bowl. You'll see a young artist from Duke Ellington, Matthew Crittenden, at Art Tech House, and so on. And these are a series of 7 films we put together with different business owners to underscore the vitality of the arts and the small businesses in DC. They've received about 18,000 views on throughout social media, and our collaborations with embassies and many other local partners have as well. We really can't say enough about the value of partnership and the value of the community relationships, because even as we're a smaller organization, those partnerships are absolutely essential and vital. And I'm very grateful to the city council, the commission, the mayor, and to your office for really emphasizing the connectivity of our field so that we're working together instead of competing. If you go to the third slide, you'll see visuals of our gospel choir. Our gospel program has been around for over 25 years. And in this time, the singing is the most volatile way of spreading the germs from COVID. But what we've decided to do is to produce virtual programs and to be sure that the students in our Children of the Gospel Choir have a chance to build their voices and to learn. So we are subsidizing private vocal coaching for them. And so when they come together and sing online weekly and have theory lessons and clinicians working with them, they're continuing to have that social connection and that musical development that is really vital for them. And we are releasing holiday programs that they've helped put together. The sense of community that they've created and we have supported has been so fundamental to our mission and for them. And similarly, as you see on the right, examples of some of the family programs we've created with local artists from different dance companies. They've been global cultures spotlighted, as well as making instruments at home and whatnot. Those partnerships with the DC Public Schools and opportunities for parents is really what we focus on. So I guess, to summarize, this is a moment where community matters, where the reverberating impact of the arts is felt, and we have to be very explicit about that, because as I walk to our offices occasionally at 14th and K, seeing the boarded up businesses, not knowing where everybody went, it's one of the most devastating sort of existential challenges we've ever faced.
Surreal.
But I have this confidence that the city is receiving as much information as it can through surveys, through forums like this. As Mark suggested, the need is dire. It's dire all around the country. But the nation's capital is watched very, very closely as a bellwether of how we manage in a very complex urban environment where politics are foregrounded and where communities need the support and connection. So I'm very hopeful that the city will continue to lead in so many ways as it has, very forthrightly, with in ways that are social, political, and creative. And I'm grateful for every moment that we can continue our work, because I feel and see the impact. We may be smaller, but with the support we've received through the CARES Act, through the National Endowment for the Arts, the Commission, the Mayor's Office, and other offices, we are putting those funds to very, very powerful use, and artists are benefiting. So I hope that we'll continue to reap those benefits as a community. I can't see you. I'm sure somebody's going like this, but I just want to thank you, and a pleasure to be with all of you today.
No, Jenny, thank you for joining, and thanks for joining us virtually. I assure you nobody was waving you off at all. In fact, I was actually taking down notes because that looks like some good content to catch up on this holiday season as well. So thank you for your work. And just to kind of get us started on the conversation, there were actually some questions, Sabangle, from some of our panelists as we were getting ready for this session. And one of them was just about sort of how they show their employees in the application. So a very specific question of how they show their employees in the application pre-pandemic or where they are now, and how they can kind of get that information to us so they can show the impact.
Yeah, so more details will obviously be shared in the information sessions, but to answer your question, when you're showing your payroll, whether it's full-time, part-time, or 1099s, we're looking for your current status now, is the information that we're looking for. And so as we receive that, that'll be a part of the core expenses. And so there's more information on that when you fill out the application.
And then also, I think it was actually Rebecca, and I'm sure Jenny might have a similar question, was about kind of revenue, the difference between earned revenue. This is more for our nonprofit operators, earned revenue versus contributed revenue, and how they kind of can account for the significant drop in earned revenue.
Right, so when that information is submitted, we are taking that into account as part of your core operating expenses, since obviously some of those happen on an annual basis, are committed funds that you use for your nonprofits. So that is taken into account.
Could I just add one thing there? I think the other issue with contributors, most of ours is restricted. So even though it looks like it's income, I cannot use it unless it's for a free youth program. It's not operating. So my question was to show the 50% decrease in revenue. It was obviously the decrease is totally with the earned revenue, not with the contributed.
Right, so we still want to see both.
Okay.
Yeah, that most certainly helps.
Okay. We've got a couple callers on the line. The first is Jerry. Jerry, can you hear us?
Hello, John. How are you?
Good. How's it going? Thanks for calling in, Jerry. You had a question
Good.
too about timing, I think,
I
too.
want to say, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I just want to say thank you first to you and your team and the mayor and the council for the Bridge Fund. It's really what's needed. Kind of a classic Keynesian economics response to things you just shut down. I'll start by echoing Mark. The downtown bid is happy to be the home where Mark's business is located. We usually do our Christmas party there, our holiday party there. We were not able to do that this year. It was very disappointing. But I want to echo his comment that time is short. And my question really is, I think it's posted that this is for the restaurants, because we've had some conversations with restaurants because we have a lot of them in the downtown bid, that the notifications go out in January and continue in February. And your time is short. And if there's any way you can accelerate this to get the money out by January 15th or January 30th at the latest, I think that would be really, really appreciated by all of the restaurants I know that are applying. And so I echo Mark's comment that time is short.
Absolutely. And just for folks watching too, because for some of the folks watching, this actually may be the first time you've applied for a grant with us. And we are trying to expedite this as quickly as possible. Just sort of process-wise, the way this happens is we'll open up the application. When the application closes, we have to analyze the applications, make sure that everything is there, and you may hear some feedback from us immediately upon closing of the application or shortly thereafter. We do sometimes let folks cure applications that are not exactly complete. And then there is a period of time where we actually do make an award, and the award will ask you to confirm the information that you have submitted. It may ask for a little bit more of additional information, and then when you get that award, and we have a grant agreement, yikes, we have a grant agreement, and that's the end of the show. That was a joke. That was a joke, guys. So we have the grant agreement, and the grant agreement is what you send us back in order for us to make the disbursement. So there's a couple steps along the way, and again, I don't say that to try to extend the amount of time that you're thinking. I just want folks to get prepared of what the back and forth is so that we could actually get that disbursement to you. Sabangwai, is there anything more to add to that?
No, I think that was good. You covered
Okay,
it.
fantastic. So with that, I want to go to the next question. Cassandra is on the phone line. Cassandra, you're...
Hi, yes, thank you for, thank you for taking my call. I won't be long, and I really appreciate you guys for having this forum. And unfortunately, I got on the phone call too late to hear what the actual program was about. But I'm a boxing promoter. I'm a licensed boxing promoter here in Washington, D.C. And so obviously, I'm having a shortfall in terms of we can't go out and have shows. We're not able to promote our boxing shows for our young amateurs and professional boxers. So I don't know whether the bridge funding is looking at people like myself. And I guess that's my question. Where do I fall in that category? If you're a promoter, if you are a events planner, that's, you know.
And actually, Cassandra, that's a really good question. And Sanford on Facebook had a very similar question about how the non-venues fit into this. So, Sabangwai, can you tell them, for folks who are watching, how non-venues would prepare if you're working in the space for the application as well?
Yeah, sure. We have made some considerations for that as well. Like I mentioned earlier, we're doing the first part, which is the venues, and then there will be a non-venue application that will be opened in the following weeks. So there'll be additional guidance. So for someone like yourself, you would be included in that part 2 of the Entertainment Bridge Fund. So that does include event planners, audiovisual renters, event photographers and such, tour companies, event promotion production companies and such.
And so the big thing for those who are the non-venues, the biggest thing is to look at the list of items that Sabangwai went through earlier. You may not have to have every one of those licenses or documents. For example, you may not hold an ABRA license. But you should look at the documents that we're asking for of businesses because they generally stay about the same for each grant round. The other thing that we do is we try to align the application documents or the documents we ask for the application similar to what is asked for on other loans or grant programs that we or the federal government are running. And so one thing that is actually promising about what they did on Capitol Hill this week is that there seems to be more PPP dollars that will be available. The amount is $284 billion. So when you think about just kind of where we are in this, we're talking about the Bridge Fund, which is a $100 million effort, and we want to get that to our businesses as quickly as possible. But really, when you look at what PPP offered to folks earlier in the pandemic, it actually awarded to district businesses, and of course this is a loan program, but it's forgivable, $2.2 billion. So when you think about the size and the scale, it's so important that you as operators think about how you make your business PPP ready when that next round opens up. We're going to do more in the new year around January 5th when we come back to this session to talk about how to get PPP ready and to be ready for those programs that are coming. The other thing that's promising about the federal legislation is that there was an allotment for live venues. It was a $15 billion allotment. We're still kind of trying to understand exactly how that will flow out from the federal government, but we'll be sure to track that down as the bill becomes more visible, I'll say, and understand how we can support our businesses and our organizations to capture as much of that as possible. So I wanted to make sure that we covered that as well. So I'll go back to Donna. So Donna, when you talk about sort of the capacity limits, are you envisioning a time where you think you'll be able to open not to your full capacity, but to a limited capacity? And how do you kind of approach that? Because I think that's important for us to think about. Of course, we need to make sure the health conditions allow for it, but that we think about. So how are you all approaching that at IMP?
Well, first and foremost, we need to have artists who are ready to tour.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, everything, as other programmers have spoken, everything has kind of been pushed off. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that there was a show, Sturgill Simpson was supposed to play the weekend that we closed. He had 2 nights there at the Anthem. And those contracts are just being carried over. And so those were 2 sold-out shows at 6,000 capacity. So he's still going to look for the same money. And we can't produce that show for half the people and still pay him the same money. So honestly, there can probably be some interstitial, smaller capacity programming, but it will be few and far between, I believe, and it can't be for very long.
Yeah.
Because the reality of it is, as Rebecca was saying, the production is the same. The production expenses are the same. We anticipate there will need to be universal investments in HVAC or something like that. That will be real expenses that we're going to have to. I mean, we have a maxed-out HVAC system at all of our venues, but I think that we're figuring out it needs to be specialized now, HEPA or whatever. And then we're going to probably need to have more people. And you want to be around as few people as possible, but the irony is you need more people to take temperatures and make sure that everything else is being observed. And so you're paying those people more. So it's going to be a dance, and there is a level below which it just doesn't pay to open up. Somebody like Jenny, I've spoken at the Kennedy Center, nonprofits have to, and arts organizations, they have to continue to create. It's very important for their existence and for their donors, so the donors can see that they're getting something for it and want to continue to be invested in that organization. For us, we don't have donors. We only sell tickets, and we sell beers. And if we can't do that, we're just losing money.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not really a middle ground for us.
Yeah, Mark, did you?
So, I mean, and that's what's happening with me now. I'm open for those employees who aren't the regular, the kitchen people and everything like that. Like, we're doing a Christmas box. So we're doing Christmas dinner. Now, honestly, I can honestly say that Christmas dinner to go looks better than last week already. So that's a good piece of the puzzle for me, but it's still a money-losing situation. That's Christmas Day. It's like Mother's Day. We did really well. The week after Mother's Day, we lost $20,000. So everybody's like, "Oh my God, you're doing so good." No, we're just doing this so that we can keep these people who don't have unemployment, that work in the kitchen or work as servers or whatever it is, and so that they can keep making some money.
Yeah.
But the gentleman came back and said, can we get it done by January? I'm begging you. I'm talking about people going into the office, like I would have told Congress, they should have been in the office. There shouldn't have been a Thanksgiving vacation. You guys have got to pretend like this is you, and I have no place to live. I have nothing to eat. And I don't think anybody in the government understands that. Like, the government check keeps going every week. And I don't mean to be the crazy, but this is serious. This is people that do not have money. And these are desperate times. The problem is when you put desperate people into desperate situations, everything goes wrong. We need help now, not January 15th, not January 30th. If these applications, again, like I said, I really feel bad in comparing us to Chicago, but Chicago called people in this city and said, oh my God, your program sounds so good, the 110, they had some of your people send it out, and then they beat us and sent the money out in December. Some of the people got their money in November, but we had our program in September, and now we're talking about sending it out January, February, and we're not a tenth of the size of Chicago or Illinois. So I think we've just got to try to do a better job. I think it's important that somebody does say, hey, we got to do something to expedite this. Yep. And I don't know what that is, but I don't know if, and I know we all chose our professions, and a lot of people look at us like we're winning, and it seems glitzy and glamorous. People say to me all the time, what do you do during the week? You only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I said, what, do you think 2,000 people just show up here every week? Do you even understand what it's like having to stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning, be back in there at 8, 9 in the morning? Like, I don't think people get that. I don't think anyone here realizes how hard it is to make sure you're up to your health regulations are up to par. And now, like she said, they're even worse. You got to hire more people to do more things. You got to buy more stuff. We appreciate, and I'm going to tell you, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that the city is giving it. But we've actually paid into this. It's like we paid insurance. We pay sales tax. We pay taxes and all of these other things. We really need your help. Yeah. And I'm getting this. People are like, please, please, please tell them.
Yeah. Well, and the reason we put ourselves out here each week, too, is to hear this feedback, because we want to hear it. So everything that you're saying is something I'd affiliate myself with as well in terms of that sense of urgency. And I know that, we had a caller, Jerry, who talked about his holiday parties and how he would be at the park for his holiday party. And if you're talking about one of the last good days for you was Mother's Day, it kind of puts things in perspective in terms of how hard of times we're in right now.
It is.
It's probably, hard. If we were pre-pandemic, you probably wouldn't be with us right now because you'd probably be
doing a Christmas party.
Exactly.
I mean, the whole month of December is booked out for Christmas parties.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things too, Donna, that you mentioned was that your acts are kind of, you have to make up for the acts that you had in 2020, in 2021. One of the interesting things, I get the opportunity to serve on the Events DC board, and one of the things that we don't have the luxury of is shifting shows, because our calendar is actually booked out for a couple of years.
Right.
And so the reason I mention that is not to, gloat or to really show off about the convention center, but more so just that that revenue is lost from those shows. They're gone, right? And so for all of us, kind of as a city, we have the burden of what none of us wanted any of this to happen, right?
And we're not saying it's anyone's fault.
Yeah, and all of us though, what we lost, and I am expressing this just to make the point again about relief is only a small portion of what was lost.
Right.
And so for us to put another burden on entities that receive relief is something that I don't know that we can support. And so I know there are folks who are advocating for that, but this relief is meant for the purpose of trying to, and the reason we called it the Bridge Fund, and the mayor was very specific about this, is because we're hoping that this will be that little bit that just gets you to that next phase or that next point where we can open. I saw Jenny shaking her head a lot. I also wanted to ask Rebecca if she had a final thought. I know that, Rebecca, you operated under the waiver program as well, and talk about your experience operating under the waiver program.
The waiver, yeah. Well, we have a little different situation in that we've never totally dependent, as you do, on ticket sales. We do, and of course, our funders would like it because otherwise, you're not proving that people want your programs. But even with the 25 people, it was then converted to 50, but that, as you said, had to include the backstage, the 2 people taking temperatures, the 3 ushers, the people making sure there were only 2 people in the bathroom, the people making sure everybody left their mask on. So it was a lot more expense. We still feel, because of the need to keep our artists working and the feedback we had from our community that they really wanted this, that it was necessary to do, and we did it safely. I'm glad during that period there was no spiking, so it was a real sort of magical window that we pray and hope may open up, because we did prove that we could do it safely. We tested our actors. We had a partner with Mary Center, so they got tested for COVID every week. All of the staff got tested constantly whenever we were around anybody. So we tracked every single person who went through the venue, sending all the information to the health department. So it was a challenge, but I think it was really worthwhile. It was very, I think, effective. It's, you don't know, in the balance, we're losing money, but we're gaining the faith of the people who want to see us stay open. We're gaining the visibility because people were talking about it. There were articles out there, and the few people who came were giving us wonderful feedback. So there's always that balance. Again, nonprofits can get some grant money to cover some of these losses. But an example, our earned revenue the year before was something close to $400,000. I think it's going to be even under Jenny's it's going to be probably $50,000 this year, wow. 50 to 60. So we again are dependent on grant money or PPs or PPP programs right. to pay our staff. We were lucky to keep the staff. Again, we're very lean. We only have 9 full-time people on staff. We were able to keep all of those people on staff. Only my technical director left because he got tired of all the challenges of the whole situation with COVID. So we're still able to keep 8 people on.
I appreciate
that. I'm not saying it's a perfect model. It's something to consider. I think maybe hybrid ways of virtual and small live may work for some nonprofits, just to keep both as options. Because for us, it's just so difficult to do everything virtually. Yeah. It's just become such a challenge, and we don't do it as well as we'd like to. So. And
I see Jenny shaking her head, and also you talked about a couple of the ways that you pivoted to virtual. Tell us a little bit about that, and then I'm going to go to Ian for a thought as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because we used to present orchestras and very big productions as well as sort of smaller, more intimate productions. And we are not doing the big productions. I mean, this is something where we're having to get very creative. We're bringing the performance of the Ballet Folklorico de Mexico, which was supposed to be on tour, and instead they're creating a program that's somewhat unique, hybrid from Mexico City, that we're contextualizing with the Mexican Cultural Institute and the Embassy. So this has tapped into kind of maximum ability to be nimble, where we're a field that plans ahead, and now the team has to be very responsive in the way that we program. I actually do see a huge potential in continuing virtual programming even as we come back live, because there are many people who are either a part of communities and families where there's concern about health overall, but also, frankly, the residual trauma of being in a group. People are not just going to flip a switch, take their masks off, and run back into venues. And we have to be prepared for kind of the emotional and mental fatigue and the fear and the vulnerability that people feel. There are many people who aren't able to make it to performances because of the transportation, because of the cost, because of the ability to travel at night or whatnot. And actually, many more people around the country and in other parts of the world have been plugging into our programs, whether they're free or paid programs. So is this an opportunity for us to actually engage more members of our community, both in person as we're able to bring people back, but also by using some of these distribution channels to engage people. If they work evenings, can they watch something in the morning? Can they do it for free? Can they watch with their families? And for me, this actually is a very interesting discussion around equity, how culture becomes even more accessible by what we are able to offer. And that's where, this is a horrific situation that we're dealing with, and the financial and emotional and creative toll is real. I would love for us to continue to talk about what we do down the line, because the equitable access to the arts is something that I think, especially in this city, organizations are very committed to. And there's an even more interesting conversation that is evolving as we look at the impact of so many different important movements and important historic moments that we have all observed and been part of as we've been in this very isolated state. And we didn't really address that as much here, but in our nation's capital, to be able to engage access and equity alongside the arts and economic vitality is a real opportunity. And we have the lens, and we have places where and organizations that have really stepped up. And that, for me, is the next opportunity. And if not us, who? So whether it's our programs or other programs that are offered, the infrastructure, the access, and frankly, just the survival to the other side, there could be something very interesting when we're in the next phase and in a position to think and breathe. So that's what I'm trying to focus on as I sleep with one eye open and we manage everything to our cash balance.
Absolutely. And Ian?
For sure.
Thank you, Jenny. Your final thought, Ian?
Sure. I think one of the things I've noticed just over the past couple of years, activating these spaces is the relationships with the developers and people that, own a majority of real estate in the city. There's a lot of money in real estate, and it very rarely gets passed down to the operators, the ones that brings the energy and the culture to that specific sector of neighborhood. And, when we see, TIFs and tax abatements and things of that nature, there's creative ways where, a business like Mart doesn't have to spend $80,000 in monthly rent, or a restaurant doesn't have to spend, $150,000 to $250,000 to build out their kitchen. I think that there needs to be a new focus on commercial real estate. And really understanding that you can do percentage-based rent or some other form of partnership with those owners where it's not as daunting to have a rent over your head, so you're budgeting based on performance, and hopefully this wouldn't occur again in our lifetime, but, we never know, right? We didn't think this would happen, and here we are. So I think those are unique opportunities for us. Our business has taken that approach. We've always been in that space, and it shows. There's great partnerships out there with real estate developers, and I think that's something that we should all kind of look at. There's no reason that a business should be paying, what they're paying in market rate rent at all. So if there's some upside in the business, sure, you get some upside, but if there's some downside, there's no reason why a developer should still be cashing out.
Absolutely. I understand that. And I think there's a lot of work we can do on that front as we plan. I think what Jenny and Ian, what you've been talking about here is just to make sure that we're thinking about how we come back in a different way.
Correct.
As well. And I want to give Director Townsend and Director Cook an opportunity to close us out here. I know we've gone a little bit over today, or a lot over today, which is okay because I know there was a lot to be said, but I want to give them a chance to share a final thought. So Director Townsend.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and again, thank you for our guests for being with us today and sharing their stories. And I know that not only for the entertainment venues, but for hospitality in general, restaurants, hotels, retail, and of course entertainment. It's been one heck of a ride through this pandemic, and I know that we are still facing some challenging times here, not only in the district but throughout the country with the same problems. And for government, it's challenging as well in trying to figure out ways that we can provide support through policy change, through regulatory change, and I think most importantly at this time is through funding directly to our businesses here on a local level. So just know that decisions are being made with interest of the business community here in DC. So with that, I am always accessible at nightlife@dc.gov, and I will pass it off to Simangale. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Townsend. I think my final comments are, obviously, we appreciate all of the comments here today. It's always helpful to continue to talk to our partners and businesses here as we have continued to do through, building out these funds. And so I would still invite people to continue to go to the coronavirus website for more information on information sessions and how to apply. The application is open. And we will continue to keep working on how we can expedite and support our businesses as quickly as we possibly can.
Well, thank you, Simangale, and really thank you to the DMPED team, the Nightlife team, the folks in government who have been doing the work day to day. We've been adapting ourselves, and so there's been a lot thrown at us as well, and I appreciate the effort of the whole team to try to do all that we can. Mayor Bowser says a lot that we're not your grandfather's Washington, D.C. If you came when you were growing up to D.C., we were a town that closed at the end of the day, and we were solely a government town. But when you hear from the stories that were shared today, you know that we're more vibrant, more culturally diverse than we ever have been before. And that carries through the pandemic as well. And so as challenging of a time as this is, we know that we'll get through this. We know that in many ways we've been called the District of Champions, but we're also going to be the District of Comebacks. There's going to be a comeback that is collective, that we all benefit from individually. But there's a lot of work to do from here to there. So I want to thank our team in DMPED, in the mayor's office, and across the district government for their work. If you also said last year that we were going to take over every parklet in front of every restaurant that wanted to have outdoor dining, someone would say that you were really, for lack of a better term, crazy. So what we want to do as we go into 2021 is have that same spirit of cooperation and creativity in order for us to actually make sure that that comeback is even more equitable and makes our city more equitable than it was before the pandemic. So there's a lot of work to do. We want to wish everybody a happy holidays. We'll be back with you on January 5th at 4 p.m. For our next recovery weekly check-in. But in the meantime, take care of one another and be safe. Thank you.